Welcome to Real Success Stories. My name is John Wadsworth, president of Strawn and Company Insurance. I'll be your host as we bring you exciting content featuring exceptional individuals and organizations. Throughout my professional career, I've witnessed many talented people build successful businesses and significantly impact their communities. We will now have the opportunity to bring these stories to you. We will have the privilege of speaking with business owners and highly successful individuals who are involved in a wide variety of industries. We will see success defined in many different ways. Our guests will share their stories of how they built their businesses to reveal strategies that you can duplicate in your endeavors. We will get to experience the human side of success as we identify the challenges and obstacles that entrepreneurs endure. We will see the thin line that separates giving up from true success. Along the way, we'll have the opportunity to speak with nonprofit organizations that are creating opportunities for success in their communities. Another goal of this program is to give these great organizations broader exposure and awareness to help continue their success. As a listener, we hope you feel encouraged to support the organizations that we feature. Through this open and honest forum, we aim to build community and foster success among all who wish to pursue their dreams. You will hear real success stories of people just like you and me. Thanks for listening. Check back regularly for new episodes and make it a great day. Hello and welcome to this episode of Real Success Stories. I'm John Wadsworth, president of Strawn and Company Insurance, and I'll be your host as we have the opportunity to speak with a wide variety of guests as they tell their stories of success. Today, we're very excited to welcome Mr. Loren Pierce, owner of Pierce Pharmacy Management with operations in 4 states, including Moye's Pharmacy and Martha May's Flower and Gifts here in Henry County. Loren, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. It's a beautiful day.
Hey, amen. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got the bright bluebird skies today. Nice crisp air. It feels good out there. You know, you've come out today. You've had a busy day. Decided to take some time to join us, and I think you've got a great story to share that is going to provide a lot of great insight for our listeners. So, you know, just to jump right in the deep end here, even though I gave the introduction, and a lot of our listeners are very familiar with Moye's, it goes much deeper than that. So just to jump right in the deep end here, Loren, let's talk about what all is included under the umbrella of Pierce Pharmacy Management, because many of our listeners are familiar with Moye's, but they may not realize how far beyond Moye's your operations really expand. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, Moye's Pharmacy is a group of what we do. We formed Pierce Pharmacy Management as a means to manage all the entities that we have. But here in Henry County, we've got Moye's, which is 6 locations. We have Martha May's Floral Shop inside the Moye's McDonough, and then we have Mobility Warehouse, which we started in 2003. Up in Stockbridge, as well as Falcon Wholesale, which is a niche drug wholesale company that we cater to physicians that have their own outpatient surgery centers and offices and practices and such like that, to sell them, you know, medications that they need for their office practice and whatnot.
Okay, excellent. So, you know, you mentioned that you know, you started a small pharmacy in Fairview. You grew up, you know, here in the Henry County area. What was that transition from there to Moye's to Pierce Pharmacy Management? Well, tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, sure. It's kind of an interesting story, and I enjoy telling it. It's, you know, growing up in a drugstore when I was 15 years old, I got my first job in a drugstore because my dad was an extremely hard worker, and he had tractors and gardens, and, you know, every evening and weekend we were outside in the summer heat. So as soon as I could become gainfully employed, the local drugstore was my best option. And he had video games and candy and everything else that you'd want as a teenager. And I worked there, you know, throughout high school. And if you've ever met Tony Moye, and if you remember Tony Moye's mother, Mary, she was always influential in helping Tony grow his business. And the first thing that ever came out of her mouth was, "Hey, my name's Mary Moye. Where do you get your prescriptions?" And that ended up happening with my older sister, who happened to be Mary Moye's nurse in Atlanta. And my sister said, my little brothers want to go to pharmacy school. So Tony just happened to be there and said, sure, send him down and, have him meet me. So I got in my Mustang and drove from Fairview to McDonough one Saturday morning. Tony shows up and he has a computer. I mean, he's filling prescriptions. This was probably 1986. And, and Tony and I really kind of clicked. I worked there through pharmacy school part-time, did my rotations there. And it was pretty obvious to Tony that I had the bug. I saw what he was able to achieve. He had the store in McDonough, one in Stockbridge, and had some really good conversations throughout pharmacy school. And his advice to me was, go work somewhere first, of course. Don't just jump straight into the deep end. But as chance would have it, my senior year of pharmacy school, Tony had some problems with the manager, I guess, at the Stockbridge store, and the store was a little bit sideways in debt. And he calls me and says, hey, take this store over. I'll sell you 49% of it. I either need to do that or close it. So I said, this was January of my senior year of pharmacy school. I was graduating in June. And for those of you who know, Mercer is, Tony was always a benefactor, I guess, or a contributor of Mercer. And
yes.
Very influential. So I said, Tony, that's pretty interesting, but there's only one problem. I'm not a pharmacist. I've got 6 months of pharmacy school left. So Tony says, I'll call you back. 15 minutes later, he calls me back and he says, I've called the pharmacy school. I'm your preceptor for the next 6 months. Show up at Stockbridge Monday morning.
Tony has his ways.
So, it was a good experience for me because I was, you get zero business education in pharmacy school. And it was a excellent opportunity for me to understand right off the gate how sideways a business can get if you take your eye off the ball. And we worked on a plan and turned that store around, and Stockbridge is one of our better stores we have, all around.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I look back and reflect on that, and I didn't know what I was doing. I picked up everything I could do, and, at the end of the day, it was hard work, take care of the customers, and the rest of it came. And
OJT.
Yeah, it's exactly right. The thing I always learned from Tony versus the guy I used to work for was the guy I used to work for, great guy, but he never accepted change. And you look around, every business changes, but the only thing that doesn't change in pharmacy is change. You have to be willing to adapt. The way insurance plans change, regulations, we're highly regulated. So you always have to try to build a better mousetrap to attract new customers because let's be honest, when you're in healthcare and, you have people that are transient, they move in, they move out, and they die, we all get older, they go to nursing homes, et cetera. So there's a lot of reasons why we have to continue to replenish our current book of business just to stay even. So, I learned that always embrace change. It's not always fun. I always find myself a little more resistant to it than I used to be in my 20s and 30s. But it's always something you have to keep, I think, in front of mind is just because it works today doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow. And it's certainly been true for us. And we try to accept that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Something you mentioned there that I think is an interesting point and doesn't necessarily apply to every industry. Obviously, what I'm about to bring up heavily impacts your industry. But I think there's a lot of folks out there, particularly folks that are getting into some professional endeavors, whether it's pharmacy, something else healthcare related, or we start talking about financial services, things like that. There are some professions out there that are highly regulated. And you touched on regulations and keeping up with that a moment ago. So, particularly as the business has grown, how important has it been? And I'm really thinking about the aspiring entrepreneurs who may be listening to our conversation. Going into a profession, how important is it to identify that, A, there are a lot of regulations that I've got to make sure I comply with, but then B, I need to advocate for not only my business, but for my industry to make sure that we can operate with good regulations that protect us and protect our clients, but also allow us to operate profitably.
Right. Yeah, and I think there's two parts to that answer. One is, from an entrepreneur trying to consider which business I want to get into and which one, regulation I call barriers to entry. So we have a very difficult business, high sales volumes, extremely low margins. Every penny matters in our business, but it's not so easy to get into. But we do have the deep pocket, deep discount stores and those type of things that we compete with. So it's a challenge, but it's certainly something that if you're an entrepreneur looking to go out and do your own thing as far as pick a business, it's certainly barriers to entry, I think, are something that needs to be considered. The second piece of that is what you asked is about, getting involved. And I'm sure a lot of industries who are regulated have to fight the fight because we have adversaries in our business who are also our biggest customers, Optum, Express Scripts. It's a love-hate relationship because we have to have their contracts, but they hand us a contract and says, here's what you're going to get paid. We have to work our expenses under that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always down at the Capitol fighting each other over PBM, pharmacy benefit management rights, advocating for pharmacy rights. So community pharmacy is continuing to be in the conversation of healthcare and proving to lawmakers who aren't really, they may know, well, my town did happen to lose its corner drugstore, but I don't see the impact because there's always CVS. But when you get engaged with a community pharmacist, especially if you have a serious health condition or a loved one with a serious health condition, a community pharmacist, the value is in the relationship.
Absolutely.
It's not in the price. It's not in the copay. A community pharmacist can really, can be a life or death situation. In all honesty, it's somebody you can call and on Sunday afternoon, and they'll crack the doors of the drugstore open, and or you call them or text them on their cell phone and say, and that to me is just what I think's a little bit been lost in the thing that is perceived that's out there that a lot of people don't know that relationship is out there. Just you just have to introduce it.
Yep. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that really underscores not only the importance of being involved in fighting the good fight, but also for those aspiring entrepreneurs, knowing that I'm wanting to get into trade ABC, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to be physically doing that work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Part of making this successful is going to be supporting the industry, protecting the industry,
Mm-hmm.
and just another piece of all the things that go into being an entrepreneur.
Right.
And I think that carries across a lot of industries.
Mm-hmm.
Well, within that, you mentioned several times the importance of the community pharmacy, the community pharmacist. And I'd like to expand on that a little bit because my impression is that you have a real philosophy about that, and that's a real core piece of what you do, what your team does. So I'd like to, share with me the importance of that, what you believe in there, and really how you've managed to not turn over to the big faceless corporate entity.
Yeah, it's don't get me started sometimes, at least that's what my staff will say, because I am a community pharmacy gets in your DNA. This is what I tell pharmacists. I still speak at the pharmacy school, and I get asked that question all the time, and my family makes fun of me because I can probably count on my left hand the number of times I've stepped into a Walmart. We have a generation, and my blame is on Walmart. Now you call it Amazon, call it whoever you want. But, when you have a sense of community, and the way I was raised in working at the store in McDonough, we got our gas on the corner. We got our tires from Carver Tire. We shopped at the local grocery store. We got our office supplies from Brandon Office Supplies. And it was this cycle of community businesses supporting community businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And for right, wrong, and different, it's not that way anymore. And we have, I don't know how many generations, 2 generations of people who are calloused to what customer service really is. They don't know what the experience is because they were raised in a Walmart or wherever, so they don't know any different. They don't know what they're missing, and to me, that is kind of it. And now we have, you get on your phone on your thumbs and stuff shows up. You get a Christmas package tomorrow, at your
Mm-hmm.
doorstep. And any retailer, any small business is probably experiencing that. And then, you have the restaurants with their own set of problems with COVID, et cetera, et cetera. So I am a huge proponent to make sure I go out of my way to support local businesses. And a lot of people, there was a commercial one time where I think it was a community pharmacy organization that said they filmed a commercial and they went to somebody on the street with $100 bill and said, here's $100 bill. Are you going to spend this going down to, the big discount store, or are you going to shop here on the local store? And every one of them were like, well, I'm going to support this local business. But when it comes to it, the local business can't afford the prime real estate that's the
Mm-hmm.
right turn in, the right turn out, that's at the red light. It's there in these pockets where it takes work to go shop with them,
Mm-hmm.
but they're necessary, and it's their livelihood, and you're negotiating with them, and it's their money and it's your money. And to me, I think that's, kind of the fun about community businesses and communities supporting each other. Especially, it makes it easier to make that decision when you're a small business and you have a little kid come in wanting you to sponsor their ball team,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and where do you get your prescriptions? Well, that's the first thing we ask. Community is extremely important to me, and it's challenging being an entrepreneur and trying to understand that is a way of life, and that community pharmacy and all small businesses, I think, provide a niche, but you've got to be good at it.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and so focusing in, on the Moye's operation, the Moye's
Hmm.
brand in particular, we've already mentioned Tony, Mr. Moye earlier, and he's no longer the face, the voice of the company at this point, but Moye's has maintained a loyalty, particularly in Henry County, and a customer base that is kind of counter to the trend at large, of the consumer turning to the discount store. What do you attribute the ability for Moy's to maintain that kind of loyalty, even as maybe the population at large tends to turn towards the big corporately held organizations?
Well, that's certainly a good question. I get asked that a fair amount, and I actually challenge myself with that question: is why do people still shop at Moy's? Because you know Tony Moye is a hell of a pharmacist. I mean, he knew everybody, and if he didn't know you, he acted like he knew you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah,
He still does.
So make no bones about it. Me or anybody else is never going to achieve that level of ownership, or but what he did, the values, I think, that we've learned, I think we've done a pretty good job, and this was the primary reason that I created Pierce Pharmacy Management, is because, you know, I used to do the checkbook for Moy Stockbridge, and Tony used to do his, and then we had some people working out of one store, and we had this kind of a fragmented support team that wore a lot of hats, and we
Mhm.
still do. But the primary reason I created Pierce Pharmacy Management was really just to kind of make sure everybody knew where home was, a home office that they could. And I tried to, and Pierce Pharmacy Management is myself. We have HR director. We've got a certified trainer who
Mhm.
can certify you to be a certified tech, as well as a medical assistant, teach you CPR. We've got all these programs that they can do, so we can take basically somebody out of high school and make them a pharmacy tech. We've got, a CFO. We've got, we're 90% of our revenue is paid by insurance, so we have to
Okay.
reconcile that. So we have an accounting department. So Pierce Pharmacy Management was created because I was challenging myself to make sure we got out of bed every morning and our feet hit the floor. And these people that are working in all the Moyes and all of our other stores are our customer. So the better our home office employees at Pierce Pharmacy Management can train and support them so they can take care of the real customer, that's my MO every day when I get up. So that was my plan and my strategy for making sure that the community that supported us all these years, we've got customers that I just saw this afternoon that have been, their grandkids are getting their prescriptions at Moyes, and that's pretty cool.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
it certainly makes you proud a little bit about your career choice that, you're out there. And I sincerely feel like pharmacy is a ministry. We've got the ability to make people's lives better. And that's our slogan, is make it better. Moyes, the ability to try to achieve, taking care of the patients, making sure we have what they need and solve problems. It's a lot of times what we're doing is what I hope we can achieve every day. But if we can get 90% of the way Tony did it, I'd say that's a pretty good role.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
something we chatted for a few minutes before we started recording, but something I didn't share that I think I'd like to add based on what you just said, talking about grandkids. So our family is actually in the fourth generation being served by
Yeah.
Moyes. So, and that's, I think that's a testament to you guys.
So years ago, we had the Moyes Mom campaign. So you actually just gave me an idea. So we may need to get some little onesies, new kid outfits for third and fourth generations.
We'll circle up on that
Yeah.
and see what we can make happen. So I think anytime a business is not only generational from an ownership management standpoint, but when it becomes generational from a client standpoint, that really runs deep.
Yep.
I mean, it really runs deep. So, great job. Kudos to you guys. That's really an awesome testament to what you guys have accomplished.
Thank you.
Pretty much every small business either gets a community involvement or doesn't. And a lot of times that's a piece of whether they make it or not. But Moyes in particular, whether you're talking about Tony, yourself, folks that have worked for you, what you've done collectively as an organization, you guys have been very involved, very visual in the community. What are some of the things you guys have done that you'd like to share with the listeners as far as community involvement? And what role do you think that's played in branding and creating a customer awareness or a public awareness of the business?
Well, it all goes to community involvement, marketing, and advertising are all woven together. They're all one piece.
Yeah.
We all want to get community involved, and you don't have to be an entrepreneur to be involved in your community. I think there's some emotional gain to have from helping your fellow man for whatever it is that you you choose to do. But community involvement, to me is we're saying we're community pharmacies. There's independent pharmacies and there's community pharmacies. I consider ourselves both. Community pharmacy is just that. We're here to serve at Moyes, the citizens of Henry County. Now we have one in Jackson, and we've become involved in that community. It's not just good for business; it's good for it's good for you and your soul. And if we all just came into work every day and expected, let's count our beans and go home, what's the fun in that? So, but it is, and it's a crucial part of, and it's not an expensive part. Community involvement is, way cheaper than Google AdWords. I mean, and a lot of other things. So,
Yes.
I mean, it's just your time, and what better way to spend your time and trying to organically grow your business. And we try to motivate our staff to get involved because I can't be at everything. I can't be in 5 cities. Halloween pumpkin contest. And whatnot. So we really try to motivate that as part of or emphasize that as our training, and to get people out and get them involved, and attend the geranium festivals and the whatnot. So, but yeah, it's an important part that's taken us. I think has been a huge key to our success is getting engaged in community wherever we're at.
Yep. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I know I've had the opportunity to serve with some of your employees, and some things that I've done, and I think about even, from the standpoint of when you guys, moved locations here in McDonough and renovated the building that you're currently in.
Hmm.
That was kind of the front end of this rejuvenation that we've seen in downtown McDonough. And so that kind of led the way. And one of our previous guests, Greg Cannon, made a great point when he said that part of community involvement and part of success is not only your checkbook, but it's when you're also lifting up and bringing others with you.
Hmm.
And I think the renovation here at the McDonald location and what you did with that building is a great example of that. Which, if I remember correctly, that was a corporately faceless company that was in there before you guys were.
Yep.
So, we went from, I'm assuming they were in there as a tenant, but then you guys came in and now we've got our hometown folks right here in downtown McDonough. So,
Yeah, it would have been really, you probably speak to this too. It would have been really cool for this renovation to have occurred 25 years ago when I was younger, wanting to go out at night.
there you go.
A lot of fun things to do. I remember I was at a chamber event not too long. Well, it was a long time ago. It was back in the 90s, and here in Henry County, and we were talking about the traffic problem. And the traffic problem then, where Eagles Landing Parkway was two lanes, and we were complaining about traffic. And this farmer spoke up somewhere in Locust Grove. He said, "I remember back in the '60s when we had a traffic problem. There wasn't any." And that always stuck out to me, is be careful what you wish for with traffic problems, because from a business owner, you know, we need rooftops.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that was some sage wisdom there
Yeah.
that he shared. Traffic problem is we don't have any. I don't think that's our problem now.
No.
So, but thank goodness for that, right? Well, kind of pivoting a little bit to what's dominated everybody's mind for the last 13, 14 months. How did COVID impact you guys? And was there anything in particular that you learn from this experience that is something you're going to be able to take forward to improve your operation, or improve efficiencies, profitability, whatever the case may be? Or what were some especially difficult challenges beyond the emotional that were presented by the pandemic?
Yeah, we were, everybody's looking back at Facebook at the 1 year anniversaries and reflecting on, the what I call the hoarding month in March for
Mhm.
us. Was everybody was wanting 90 days. We had the pharmacy in Buckhead that we have. People were getting 90 days on their insurance and turn around and writing a check for another 90 days because nobody knew. We were running out of things. And then April was, a sharp decline. And then we kind of steadied out around May, back to normal, except, for us, kids at home and out of school, you have kids at home and, not spreading head lice, chicken pox, sniffles, whatever. They weren't spreading that either. So, along with general practitioners, probably we suffered in that regard. But then, announce COVID testing, which I think we got a little too late. But what it meant for us was, I have our 2019 meeting for our 2020 planning year meeting agenda. I still have it. I'm going to frame it and put it in the office because it pretty much got tossed out the window, right?
Make it good for something.
But, there's always been whispers about how pharmacy, we're the most affordable, cheapest access point for healthcare, how that's going to change. And I think on the other side of this, if we aren't already, I don't think we're there yet, but I think community pharmacy is going to come out on the upswing. And, what it's meant for us is we acted rather quickly, as probably most small businesses, no matter how you were impacted. Testing has always been on the cusp, that we've never really delved into, because you have two insurances. You have your pharmacy benefits and medical, and we've only got a contract for pharmacy benefits. So if you want to walk in and get your blood pressure checked or get a lab physical, et cetera, it's just a different ball game. But what that's done is it's sped up that ball game for us, where we are making moves, and we are, you can walk into any Moye's and any pharmacy we have now and you can use your health spending account, apply it towards your deductible, and we try to make the price affordable, but we can't bill your insurance yet. But what it means for us is hopefully to get to that point where you walk in and you can get any test you want. Right now, you can get flu, strep, cholesterol, COVID, and they're reasonably priced. And we're also working on telehealth solutions where you can go to our website and get a doctor's appointment for $59. We've partnered with that, and we can actually let local doctors here in Henry County or anywhere else join our network, where new people moving in, we can use, the Moye's name or the pharmacy name to promote the, quote, telehealth website. So those are the type of things that we've been working on, and we've got it in place. The doctorsin.express is the website where you can go online, you get a migraine prescription or, birth control pills, things of that nature. We're trying to take that and progress that to where the pharmacy is, the way I see it, is going to be I call it a hybrid urgent care. So what we want people to think about is, hey, I have something wrong. Who do I call? Well, I need to call my pharmacist. And if we can take that, and the pharmacist, we can be the focal point for healthcare decisions, then we can either take care of them or we can direct them where they need to go. But the hybrid urgent care would be, you come in and you can get a cholesterol test, then we can set you up in a room in our pharmacy with like an exam room with a webcam, and then you can actually get your doctor's appointment right there on the spot. One thing we recognized when COVID vaccines and everybody wanted you to log on and make an appointment and do your medical record, et cetera, there's still a lot of analog people out there. That's one thing that opened my eyes is don't shut the door on those folks. That's still a good portion of the population who like to pick up the phone and talk to somebody. And that was probably the biggest thing, is a mistake I made, making that assumption that everybody knew how to use a smartphone. I knew everybody didn't, but I didn't know the magnitude of people who just want to come in and talk to you and say, hey. And now we're to that point. We have lots of COVID vaccine. If you haven't gotten your COVID vaccine today, it's because you haven't tried. There's lots of it available, and it's political or not, but it's pretty abundant right now. But like I said, the things that we've learned is, I think community pharmacy is going to be more engaged in patients' health care and certainly gain more respect. I tell you, the State Board of Pharmacy, I'll have to hand it to them. They allowed our pharmacy techs to give COVID vaccines. And I mean, we had techs who really felt empowered and meaningful. The days that they actually got to come on and give patients COVID vaccines who have been waiting and waiting and waiting. The fulfillment they got from that day of, first being able to administer vaccines, and the pride they were able to feel from, that accomplishment was pretty emotional for me, knowing that, we were able to play a part in that, and it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. It sounds like there's already a lot of things that have changed in the last year, in with you mentioned the telehealth, some exciting things coming down the pipe, new capabilities, new ways to serve your clients. But, beyond that, is there anything, new that you'd like to share with our listeners, whether it's about the pharmacy-related services, other products, or I think it'd be great if you want to tell everybody about Martha Mays. I think there's some exciting stuff going on there. But, what's new with Moye's and with Pierce Pharmacy Management that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I'll let me touch on Martha Mays. It's interesting. I found a guy from a guy, it's a community pharmacy in I think Nebraska or something. He had a flower shop, and it was intriguing to me because the flower shop is it's extremely seasonal. Valentine's and Mother's Day, and then hopefully you make ends meet between that then and the rest of the year. But as I was asking questions about it with my local florist, who was Mark Meeks, Stockbridge Florist, Mark's like, after about a couple of months asking questions, Mark's like, I think Regina's about ready to retire. Why don't you just buy our shop? So long story short, we were able to buy that, which was good for us because, they stayed on and trained us for a while. And then Leslie Hudgens came on, and she was doing marketing for us. And it's like, that's kind of learned that. And she's done phenomenal at Martha Mays, and we ended up, as you know, moving it inside Moye's, mostly because we had more real estate down there than we needed in regards to our front end. So,
And so that's at the McDonough location exclusively currently.
Yep.
Is that correct? Okay.
we had ideas that goes back to that change story of not everything works, but we thought maybe maybe we used that as a hub and we put flowers in all the Moyes
Mhm.
or all the other drugstores, and it'd be a great concept. But it's really been, people that want flowers delivered and they want to. Now that I know what a professional arrangement looks like versus what you can buy in a grocery store, there's a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a lot of work that goes into it. It's handcrafted. Mike could qualify for manufacturing. I don't know, but it's I couldn't do it. You couldn't do it.
No,
and it's
no.
an art. It's better. The art's better left with those that know what they're doing. So we decided just to leave it in that one store and leave well enough alone. Yeah, Moye's is. We opened that store in Jackson. I guess it's been a little over 2 years ago, and we're busting at the seams down there. And Jackson's. I've been in Jackson many times and have found a lot of former Henry Countyans down there, and it's been a good transition for us. And the traffic is, traffic's sometimes our biggest challenge. Moye's McDonough, we thought if you had asked me 10 years ago, Moye's McDonough, we'd have to relocate it or either try to put some on the outskirts and eventually close this one. I didn't know, because every year it was just, having a little bit of a decline. But I'd say 4 years ago, probably, which may, attribute to this renaissance we're having, Moye's McDonough is bouncing back and one of our best performing stores.
That's wonderful.
It's kind of fun to watch. We've got a great crew down there too. That are super engaged and care.
Yes.
In what they're doing. So.
Yes. Yeah. You mentioned the 4 years in the Renaissance. Yeah, I definitely think this is a great example of the old cliche of the rising tide.
Mm-hmm.
Lifts all ships, and I think that's definitely all of our entrepreneurs here in downtown McDonough. Have contributed to that, and it's a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
Great community with a community pharmacy right in the middle of it.
Yeah,
so,
it really is.
But well, so we've got multiple locations, we've got multiple brands. If folks are interested in finding, hey, what's the location that's closest to me, or I want to, I listen to this podcast, I want to engage with these folks. What's the best way for folks to find more information about you guys?
All right, yeah, sure. I'll give you a few. Our management company is piercerx.com. That's PIERCERX.com, and that's where you'll find whether we're hiring or not. Or my story and email if you want to speak to anybody at the home office. And then moyespharmacy.com, which actually is converting to moyesrx.com. We just, one thing I left out is we spent a lot of effort in e-commerce.
Mm-hmm.
So the moyesrx.com is our new platform where you can order a refill and then pick up a bottle of Tylenol, Tums, anything we have, and check out the shopping cart, and then you can choose local delivery, UPS, or I'll pick it up.
Okay, wonderful.
So moyesrx.com, and up in Atlanta, it's wenderrx.com. Same platform, two different brands. And then Mobility Warehouse is mobility-warehouse.com. And, I'm drawing a blank on what Martha Mays is. But I think if you Google Martha Mays Flowers, Martha May was my mother.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so that's where the
I
name
changed
comes
the name.
from.
Yeah,
Okay.
so my mother passed away. But African violets were always her favorite, and she had a green thumb, which I did not. And we were trying to think of names for, to rechange. We couldn't call it Stockbridge Florist to move it to McDonough. So that's pretty cool to, I know she's proud of what we're able to do.
What a wonderful tribute.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's Martha Mays, MAE, correct?
MAE.
Yep.
Yep.
There we go. So, and then just, for anybody that may not be aware, just real quick, who should be looking at Mobility Warehouse? Who should be checking out that
Yeah, I'm glad you asked
operation?
that. These fingers started Mobility Warehouse at a Moye Stockbridge, and we grew to the point where people were coming in and trying power wheelchairs and scooters and knocking half the bottles of Tylenol off as they were. So we ended up building, this building up on Rock Quarry, and it has a test track. It has probably 15 lift chair choices, power wheelchairs. That's on the high end. We can do custom if you need the lift gate for the back of your car to put your scooter on, all those type things. Repairs. We're really probably one of the last players in that game. The south side of I-20, I'm pretty sure. If you have a problem with a piece of equipment you have, or if you're just needing something like a knee walker or a pair of crutches or compression hose, diabetic shoes, mastectomy is brand new to us. We just picked up Sid Bream as our spokesperson. It's pretty cool.
No
He's a pretty
kidding.
cool guy. So I reached out to him on the internet, and now it's pretty cool. He took me to a Braves game last time he was here to go up to like the owner's suite with
How
Sid
great
Bream.
is that?
It's pretty cool. So Sid Bream knows who Moyes, Martha Mays, and Mobility Warehouse is. So it's a pretty cool story. But yeah, Mobility Warehouse, we have a little bit of that equipment in every store. But if you really have a loved one in need or, need anything, we've got the power to move you is our slogan. People confuse us with a cell phone store, but it's medical equipment and everything you need to, wound care on up.
Excellent. Well, so, one thing we like to kind of wrap up with is, this is a community-minded podcast. You've expressed your focus on community with being the community pharmacist. So what's another, and I would say local here to Henry County, another locally owned business that you think folks, if they're not familiar with them, they should go check them out, and who else has got something exciting going on?
Well, it's for those who know me, they know that Ed Turner and I have been friends for 30-something years, and turns out we kind of grew up in the same area. He's a little bit older than I am, but he had Ed's Pawn up in Stockbridge next door to the pharmacy where I was at, and we would leave. One of us would leave at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, see the lights on at the other one, and we'd just, knock on the door. Next thing you know, it's midnight, and we're in the back just talking about business, and, we're in our 20s. Ed's an ex-cop, and had an affinity for guns, and really, I think what he's done is really turned the image of a pawn shop around. You go in there, everybody's in uniform. His daughter and his son-in-law are running the shop in Stockbridge now, and they have one in Covington. But Ed's, he's one of the most knowledgeable, funniest entrepreneurs I've ever met, and you can really learn something from him on his business. That he got a business degree, I think, from Georgia State. Really good guy and very knowledgeable in entrepreneurship and knowing the trade of the game, especially his trade.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, go check out Ed's Pawn in Stockbridge if you have not. Great folks, great operation. Find a lot of things there. So, and maybe Loren, you can help me get Ed on the podcast one day. So,
oh yeah, he's Ed's got the radio voice.
There we go. So, Loren, I can't thank you enough for spending some time with me this afternoon, for sharing your story. Hopefully some folks that listen to this will come away with some inspiration to go out and try their hand at their passion. And, hopefully it also folks will connect here and hopefully if they're not familiar with Moyes or Winder or Mobility Warehouse, that they'll come see you guys and know what it means to have a community pharmacy experience.
And I appreciate you guys having me and actually doing this. I think anything we can do to plant the seed for future entrepreneurs. I always say persistence and ambition are the two key factors in being an entrepreneur. Is you don't have to be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but you have to get out there and try.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd be surprised what can happen. So thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. Folks, thanks so much for listening today. Appreciate any likes or subscribing to the podcast. That helps us out. And we look forward to being back next month with another podcast. And in the meantime, everybody make it a great day.